Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we have the official DICE patch notes for the Turning Tides DLC. We've got a bit more information and details there. It's not everything that's changed with the patch, and I'm still waiting on the Synthic patch and weapon changes to come out, as they will get a bit more into the nitty-gritty details and we can actually see what some of the standout weapons or the standout changes might be. Still, there's quite a bit of information with the DICE patch notes, so let's get into it now. First thing on the list is an overhauled colorblind mode, which gives you many more colorblind color settings, so this is great news for people who are playing who have colorblind issues, and it also updates into other parts of the game like player outlines and whatnot can also be tweaked within the colorblind mode settings. Another really big change is that vehicle spawn logic has been changed to allow players to select the spawn point even if the vehicle is not available, which will allow players the opportunity to actually customize their vehicles at the deployment screen more often. So basically you can select your vehicle loadout before you spawn in. This is something that the game has needed desperately since launch, but finally it's in and we no longer have to accidentally spam spawn with the wrong vehicles. When it comes to weapons changes, the patch notes are a bit limited. I talked about a lot of the general changes yesterday, with SMGs getting damage buffs in close quarters for many of them, LMGs getting damage buffs in close range and at long range, medic rifles becoming far more accurate and getting better damage at further ranges. Those are some of the general changes, and they're sort of reiterated in these patch notes, but they did reveal a few more specific patch notes that are worthy of focus. I mentioned yesterday how the RSC could easily be one of the medic's new powerhouse weapons, and some of the patch notes today confirmed that the rate of fire actually was increased on it from 163 rounds per minute to 180 rounds per minute, and also the vertical recoil and horizontal recoil was reduced significantly. So that weapon is going to be easier to use, do more damage at range, and has a higher rate of fire. Great weapon. I liked it before the patch, so now it's even better. The new shotgun spread system is very impactful and should change up virtually every shotgun in the game. I mentioned this in previous videos before, but in case you missed that, the new shotgun system involves a 12 pellet system. Before, DICE gave different shotguns different quantities of pellets and had those pellets do different amounts of damage. It became very complicated and confusing when comparing one shotgun to the other because you had different pellet counts and different damages per pellet count. This time around, DICE has standardized the pellet count on all shotguns. Every single shotgun shoots 12 pellets now, and they are all spread equally over 12 sectors in your little circle aiming radius. So the spread is going to be much more consistent now, far less random and unpredictable, so you shouldn't be getting one-shot kills for inaccurate fire, and you shouldn't be missing one-shot kills for perfectly aimed shotgun shots. So the shotguns in general should be far more consistent, and the thing that DICE has done is change the spread depending on which shotgun you're using, and also the damage per pellet. So a very significant change in terms of the actual shotgun mechanics, resulting in much higher consistency, so accuracy should be rewarded better with shotguns. I don't know if this really changes up the relationship from one shotgun to another in terms of what roles they're supposed to fill. I think they should, for the most part, perform very similarly to each other, or similarly to how they performed before the patch, just much more consistently now. In addition to that, there's sort of been a weird bug going on with shotguns where you hear the pellets spread out over several frames in game, so it sounds like you're getting absolutely blown away by an automatic weapon, when in fact you're getting shot by a shotgun. That should hopefully be fixed in the latest patch, so you shouldn't be dealing with weird death screens or death sounds anymore. The patch also mentioned that some bolt-action rifles may have had range increases to their one-shot kill range. I don't know specifically which weapons have been affected by this. Again, waiting for Synthic patch notes, and we can do a more in-depth video down the road. They've increased the 3-hit kill range on the Seirigoti by 10 meters, so that's definitely another weapon to get back into and try out, see how much better it is. Also, when it comes to the Russian 1895 Trench, also the Russian 1895 Cavalry, those weapons have been improved significantly. The 2-hit kill range on them has been increased from 47 meters to 70 meters. So that is a very big change on those weapons. Definitely worth coming back and trying out the Russian 1895 Trench variant. That's the fast-firing Iron Sight 1 and also the Cavalry variant. Unfortunately, Cavalry class has been hit pretty hard by this patch. Not only was it nerfed in the past to make it weaker overall, because people were able to stay alive quite long with that class, but also the high time to kill on many weapons drops horses and cavalry even faster. They weren't given any sort of health buff to sort of compete with the TTK patch, and so cavalry are really not going to be a particularly fun class to play after this patch. They were pretty rough to play before the patch, now they're going to be even worse, so that's unfortunate. Hopefully DICE will compensate in the future. Some weapon reload timers have also been tweaked so that they match up with the animations themselves. They've also greatly improved the reliability of anti-aircraft guns when shooting against bombers from certain angles. If you noticed yourself shooting at bombers and not getting any hit markers, that was probably a bug or whatever DICE has hopefully fixed in this patch. The AT rocket gun and similar weapons can now be fired from the passenger seat of vehicles. I haven't personally tested this out, but I imagine they mean the open top car and maybe a few other vehicles in the game. I'm having a hard time of actually thinking of vehicles that have passenger seats without weapons attached to them. So we'll have to see what can be done here, but that sounds like a really good change, since a lot of the fun I had in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 involved like zooming around on motorcycles where one of us threw C4, shot various weapons off the back of it. There was a lot of cool things you could do in vehicles in previous Battlefield games that have not been available in Battlefield 1. So if some of this starts to come back, that's great. Tripwire bombs and AT mines have both been significantly changed. You can no longer place them particularly close to each other, and to make up for this, DICE has actually increased the damage significantly. AT mine damage has been increased by 50%. I don't know if this will kill a heavy tank in one mine. It might kill a light tank in one mine. We'll need to test it out a bit more, but basically you're not going to be able to pile AT mines on top of each other, but rather have to spread them out a bit more. Tripwire bombs now do increased damage to players who are sprinting. I believe the HE one does twice as much damage to sprinting players, so you could potentially get a one-shot kill there. Gas tripwire bombs also do a small amount of damage when somebody runs over them, so it's not just the gas damage, but a tiny bit of initial damage as well. DICE has finally removed the elite classes from the War Pigeons game mode to balance it out. Now, if I can just find a War Pigeons game mode, I can test that. They've moved the Ottoman plane and torpedo boat spawns in Cape Helles, which is really good. Some of the boat spawns were just very easy to camp, especially in destroyers, and could be very frustrating for the enemy team. They've also adjusted the boat spawns for the British side. They've adjusted some problematic spawns in the conquest mode of Achibaba to avoid spawning in high traffic areas. This is great, something I specifically complained about when reviewing the map, so seeing DICE fix it is very nice. Now if they can do the same treatment for the Zeebrugge map, that would be great, as I've spawned right next to enemies on several occasions on this map as well into instant deaths. When it comes to the rental server program, DICE has made some changes for those of you who want to rent your own Battlefield 1 server. They've added, or rather removed, a delay from spectators so that they're seeing game action in closer to real time. They've also added a toggle to turn off the pre-round minimum of 6 players in any game. They've increased the ban list from 100 players to 200 players. They've increased the VIP list size from 20 to 50. They've increased the admin list size from 20 to 50, so you can have a little more control over your servers now. Now, overall, I've really been enjoying the patch. I want to test it more, sort of understand the meta a bit better, try out the new maps even more. We did a bunch of live streaming Squad Up yesterday on Twitch, and both Matimio and Jack Frags crashed out from the game, I think several times each. So there's some stability issues potentially introduced with this latest patch, so if you're crashing, you're probably not alone there. There's also been some extreme UI lag. When you're in the menu of Battlefield 1, things can lag up and get really weird. This has been acknowledged by the devs, and they're looking into it and trying to fix it. The game is still playable, just very laggy in the UI for whatever reason. Also, I believe the sort of spammy, jumpy bug glitch is still in the game. One of us experienced it the other day, and so basically that's where your whole screen starts to spasm out, and the only way to fix it is to either die or get on a mounted weapon and then get off the mounted weapon. So there's still some legacy bugs in the game, and there's some new bugs that have been introduced with this latest patch. Hopefully DICE can fix it sooner rather than later. I'm also hoping that they might introduce a fix-it patch for the PC, because I think some of these issues are only persistent on the PC version of Battlefield. So a fix-it patch for PC alone would be nice. And I only say that not because I don't want console to get patched, but because Microsoft and Sony have a very long sort of review phase for patches on those platforms, where on the Windows platform, you can just release a patch whenever you want. So I think as soon as DICE finds a fix for some of these issues, hopefully a patch will come out immediately. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up for the patch notes today. Still waiting on the more in-depth Synthic patch notes so we can really get into the weapon meta and start to understand what some of the main changes are and how that's going to affect certain guns over others. Can't wait to get into that stuff. As always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'll probably be streaming a bit more Battlefield 1 today on my Twitch channel. The link for that is in the video description, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing out.